Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Dive Diversity, including various ethnicities. I don't know why on
That
Monday
word gets you
morning
every week.
my tongue does not want to say ethnicities. I'm going to have to start practicing that in the mirror so that I am not stumbling over that word every week. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Iris Owens, your host, and on the line with me is my wonderful co-host. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Yes, it is Monday and we are ready to dive in. And today we are really going to talk about, DEI, right? And what that means, right? But in the point, in the vein of talking about it in the sense of, you know, we're going to talk about situations we've had, like,
Okay.
a challenging encounter or
Mhm.
challenging encounters. And so, Jessica, I want to ask you, I want you to talk about or tell me, share with us a time when you had to deal with a conflict, as a realtor in your work, in your business, and you know, describe the situation basically, and then share how you kind of came through that. You
Okay. Okay. Um, well, one of the biggest things that I have experienced as a realtor
Mm-hmm.
is having buyers who have a lot of outside influences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, for example, I had a buyer who I was working with. This young man was very anxious and ready to buy his first home.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out and we looked at property after property after property. We came across this particular property. He loved it. We put in an offer. Offer was accepted. Um, my client then decided to bring his mother to the inspection,
Yes.
and the mother talked him out of purchasing the
Mm.
home.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn. What I took away from that was when I'm having my buyer's consultation now,
Mm-hmm.
I ask who else will be influencing your decision
Absolutely.
so that we can all be on one accord and not
Yes.
waste anyone's time, your time, my time, anyone's time. That way,
Yes.
so everybody is on board from the beginning. So
Yes.
that was something that I had to learn early on um, in my career. So yeah.
Yes. And I totally agree with you is that it's very important. I understand when buyers are purchasing, especially a
Mhm.
first time home buyer who really has no real concept of what this process is going to be like, right? And
Mhm.
so we definitely understand why there is anxiety and there's nervousness and there is fear of the
Absolutely.
unknown, right? We
Absolutely.
definitely understand that.
Mhm.
And so, as realtors, we definitely want to take the time out to explain to a person what this process is. And it's really important that, as you stated, the first question I like to ask, like you just said, who else is involved? Because just because a person's name is not on the documentation,
Right. Does not
i.e.,
mean
you're on the contract, not
right.
does not mean that that person does not have that buyer's ear.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I think we have all experienced and had times where we have either lost a particular hold on, Jessica, I'm sorry, I gotta pause, hold on, pause. So the fact is that even though someone's not on the contract, right? And I may be repeating myself, we had a little technical difficulty. Remember, it's live radio. So is that the fact is that when you're dealing with a buyer, they have to also understand that you're the legal person doing this. You're the decision maker.
Right.
Though I understand if you're married, yes, the spouse may not be on the contract, but it is
Exactly.
necessary that that person then be involved from the onset. And
Right.
many times we run into people coming together at the end. Like someone says, well, I'm busy, they're working, they can't take the time out to look for homes. And so I'm going to be the spokesperson. I'll be the one who's going to go out and look for
Right. I'm
homes.
stepping in for
I'm
them. Right.
stepping in and I'm going to cover this and that. And then we all are like, and you go, okay, great. Right. But until you get to that situation where now both parties are together and both parties are not in agreement on the decision that they said that
Exactly.
they were in agreement on.
Exactly.
So here comes now it's like, what do we do there? Because this is now a very challenging encounter. You're
Right.
you're having to work with your buyer, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
do what you're supposed to do for your buyer as their agent, but then you're also having to satisfy this other person, whether it's the mother, the
The
children,
significant
because the
other.
significant other, because
Mhm.
I've had this situation where it was a child, it was an adult child. Like we were all the way to the closing table. Appraisal did not come back. Um, the appraisal came back less than what the price was,
Right.
but the buyers were willing. They offered above and beyond the appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
but then the seller, listening to her son, was like, I don't think you should sell it. You shouldn't sell it. You should put it back on the market as a rental and this. And I'm like, wait, what?
Wow. See,
So
you never know. First of all, in this real estate world, because
yes,
like we are in a world of our own. In this world, there are so many different factors. There's so
yes,
many different variables that can happen at any given moment of the
yes,
transaction.
yes,
And I feel like as a realtor, as agents, our responsibility is to make sure that our client, regardless if they're the buyer or the seller, are fully
yes,
aware of all the possible variables,
yes.
just to educate them as much as possible and to have an open line of communication from
Hmm.
start to finish to
Yes,
kind of help, you know, kind of protect you from some of these um crazy situations and crazy
yes.
scenarios.
Hmm.
But I mean, again, some things are out of our control, of course. But that has been one of the biggest challenges, is having other parties who really not legally involved with the
Yes,
transaction, but
yes.
they have a lot of influence
Input. Yes,
for the
yes.
transaction.
They are a great influencer upon whomever our client
Buyer
is.
or said seller.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
yes.
That's been number one. Now let me ask you this one. I have also had where I have a buyer and the buyer has a budget, but they are not realistically
Mm-hmm.
aware of what they can get with that budget.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
That is a big challenge for an agent,
yes,
because you have somebody who they're pre-approved, they have a budget, but their eye is a little more expensive
yes.
than their
Their
pocket,
taste, they have champagne taste on a,
their budget.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So
So,
that has been difficult too.
yes,
Especially
yes,
in this market.
yes. So the way I have, because I've had those challenges, as you have, as we're talking about. So the
Right.
way I have encountered those challenges was to, you take the time out to educate, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the the words coming out of our mouths are not heard by the ears of the people that we're talking to. And so
Right.
the best thing I think we can do with that is that then you show them,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you're saying you want this house,
Right.
right? You have to then break it down financially, truly.
Mm-hmm.
What the difference between your budget and what you're wanting to buy,
Right.
right? You also have to have the conversation about, is this your forever house?
Now
I-
that's it.
Is
That's the
this your
key.
forever house? Because
That's
I
the key.
know at this moment this is a major leap. This is probably the largest purchase that you
Mhm.
will make in a lifetime, right?
Right.
And you will continue to make this type of purchase as you go along, depending on where you are in your lifespan,
Right.
right? And so my thing is that I think it's important for us to recognize the emotional part. Like you have
Yes.
to talk through the emotional part first. Um,
Mhm.
Hence why, as a realtor, you have to realize that on many days, on most days, you're a counselor.
You are. You
You're
wear
a
many hats.
counselor.
You wear many, many hats.
Because you have to deal with the human emotion of making this decision.
Yeah.
Like, and now I'm now approved. And now sometimes I think the excitement of now I'm approved turns people into this little, like they get this like, yeah, 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 bam, right? And sometimes that comes out as a like a, I hate to use it, but like a minion. Like the
Okay.
minion is like you become a minion. You're like, I can buy anything
Anything.
because I've been approved.
Mhm.
And no, you cannot buy anything, but
Right.
I will help you. And our role is to help a person stay within the means in which they can purchase. I remember when we had Lanny on, and I remember Lanny saying, and I think it was the greatest thing, is that people, as a lender, individuals will come and say, how much house can I buy? And really, the question should be, how much
How
house
much
can I
I
really
can afford.
can I afford? And I think that's a great place to start when we're talking, when we, that initial onset, when we meet our clients, is to talk about where do you really want to be? Like when you're
Right.
talking about your finances and your spending and what you're having to put out each month. And then you have to factor in maintenance and taxes and insurance and the
Mhm.
mishaps, the things that the emergencies that you did not, know
Account
was going
for it.
to
Yeah.
happen. You have to
Mhm.
account for all those things when buying a home. And so I think it's important that we take the time out to educate.
Yes.
Education is the biggest thing that
It's
we can do, is educating and helping them really understand, because
exactly.
in this world in which we are, we sign a lot of things and we never read the fine print. We
Don't
never read the fine print
we
until
don't.
we are ready to terminate or
Mhm.
cancel or move on or say, I quit this thing. Like, when you're in
Mhm.
elementary school, I quit you. It's not that easy. you,
No, it's
you
not
just
because
can't, you can't
because
give
you're
somebody a note
signing
and go, I
you're
quit you.
signing a document.
It's a
You're
legal
you're
document.
exactly legal binding documents that you're putting your signature on.
Yes,
So you need to be fully versed in what it is that you're signing before signing.
yes,
And of
yes,
course, again, that's why we're here. We're here to um of course tell you what it is and inform you, but still read it for yourself
right,
and
right.
ask questions as needed. Um, I feel I love working with first time home buyers.
I do too.
I love working with first time home buyers. It really gives me the biggest pleasure because that was me. I was a first time home buyer, you
Yes,
know, years ago, and I had an excellent agent at the time, and still to this day, motivates me to want to be able to give that same type of customer
experience.
service to
Yes,
these new home
yes,
buyers. Because
absolutely.
again, like you said, this is one of the biggest investments you're ever make in your life. And therefore, you want to know that you're in good hands.
Yes.
But I have learned to educate my first time home buyers on
Mm-hmm.
you are marrying the house,
I like that.
not the interest rate.
Ah,
And that is very important right now because everybody is getting frantic because interest rates have done a big jump since January.
yes.
And I understand, the fear that some are having, but I'm also here to again educate that's going to be the key word today, educate. I'm here to educate that even though interest rates are much higher than they were in the past let's say 18 to 24 months,
Yes.
it's still lower than it was 3 years ago.
Yes. Funny you would say that because
Hmm.
this weekend I put
Hmm.
out a mortgage rate reality check, which came from Prosperity.
Okay.
And so it's like 2022 interest rates 5.65.
Right.
In 2000, interest rates were 8.05.
Yeah.
In 1990, interest rates were 10.13%. And if you
See?
want to go back to like say 1981, interest
Hmm.
rates were 16.63%.
So, and I like to play devil's advocate.
Yes.
I like to play devil's advocate. I like to give different perspectives.
Right.
So I can imagine a viewer listening to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably saying, yes, but the price of the home back then
Yes.
wasn't as high as it is now.
Right.
And you are absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
Just like the price of gas is not the same
Right.
as it was back then, everything has increased in cost.
Yes. You have to put it all in perspective.
You have to put it all in perspective. I
Absolutely.
I used to complain on my regular 9 to 5 job when I used to work for the government, and I used to say my insurance goes up every year, but not my salary.
Yes.
It's
Mhm.
just it's one of those things we hate it, but it is the reality.
Yes.
So of course, interest rates are much better than they were back in 1990. But of course,
Yes.
yes, housing, the prices for a home are now much higher, and we
Correct.
understand that. But we also understand, the cost of living is higher, so we have to make sure that we're realistic
Yes.
in what we're saying that we want. Um, but again, because you can't afford the dream house doesn't mean you can't afford a house.
Yes. And realizing that most people stay in a home, unlike our parents and our grandparents. When they bought a home, it was the forever home. It was
Right,
forever, today, tomorrow, and retirement
right,
until we close our eyes and we pass it on to you.
exactly.
Here's the funny thing about that, though.
Hmm.
No one wants the house that grandma, grandpa, mom, dad left now.
I do.
You do. But
I do.
you're
Not many.
you're okay. Remember, like we talked about last week,
Hmm.
you're right, but you're that Gen Y.
Hmm.
So you have some appreciation, but
Right.
there are many
They
who
don't.
do not have that
Hmm.
appreciation
No.
for the fact that it's a home, the fact that you could move, like let's just say the house that your grandparents grew up in, the house that your parents grew up in is fully paid for and they leave it to you.
Right.
You walk in and you say, I
I
don't
don't want
want to
this.
live here. This is old and outdated and antiquated and this. But think about it. What if all those DIY shows that you watched, right? That this would now be the time to put into motion.
Right.
Like you have a home that's already established. You don't have to go out and get a mortgage, or you could go get a loan
Just
to
to fix it up, renovate
fix
it.
that house to renovate it to exactly what you want.
Hmm.
I think sometimes people don't look at the full picture of the options that they have because even on new construction, unless you have unlimited amount of funds, there is still you're not going to get everything you want in a house.
No.
Just
No.
because location, cost
Mhm.
factors, how it's being built, when it's being built, where it's being built. You're never going to get everything in this
Everything.
home, right? And even when you have a home, if you over personalize it too much, when the day
Yeah.
comes that you decide,
To
I don't
sell
want
it.
this home anymore and I want to sell it, and
Mhm.
you're trying to figure out why won't my house sell? I love this house. Look at this house. This house has everything that I wanted.
Including that
Keyword
snake
being,
print wall.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so her keyword being this house has everything I
I
want.
want it. Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it is what other buyers will want.
Exactly.
And so we have to be able to you have to be able to look at all your options and weigh your options when you are purchasing a home.
Yeah.
And of course, as realtors, we are here to help. That is what we're here. We are not lawyers, we're not attorneys. We are giving information to be able to help you make an educated decision,
Hmm.
right?
Exactly.
And the best decision for you and your family and for your
Right.
future.
Right.
But it is vitally important that when we are offering these options, please know that we are offering options.
Right. We're
So,
not telling you what to do.
right, we're offering options. So when if you decide not to take any of our options,
Right.
then you also have to realize that you then have to come up with a solution, i.e., if you're pre-approved for $300,000 and the house that you're wanting to buy is $350,000, depending on the loan that you have, will also dictate whether or not you're able to pay that overage out of
Mm-hmm.
pocket.
Yep. There's
Because on some,
limitations to everything.
right, because on some loans, you're not able to do
Mhm.
that,
Right.
right? So you have to look at all of the options, and that when you're faced with the challenge of I want this house, but my budget says I can afford only
Mhm.
this house, that's the time when you really have to sit back and evaluate or maybe reevaluate your wants versus your need,
Right.
right? Because you most times we need to put the need first and then
Exactly.
we get into the wants.
Right. And
Right.
that brings me to one of the questions that I always ask my buyers, especially in that buyer consultation, which is
Yes,
so important because we get so much information from them.
absolutely.
One of my main questions that I ask in a buyer consultation, what is the must have for you? What
Yes.
is the deal breaker? Because even though, yeah, I want a huge walk-in closet, I may want a three-car garage, I may want 5 bedrooms and four
Mhm.
bathrooms. What is the must have? Because I'm already setting a realistic expectation for myself by
Mhm.
letting you know, okay, in the event that I'm not able to check all of these boxes, what
Yeah.
boxes must I hit?
Yes.
You know, and when they say, okay, well, I can do without the three-car garage. If it only has a two-car garage, that'll work. Um, uh, I have to have a walk-in closet though,
Mhm.
but I'll settle for a four-bedroom if not, if we can't get a five. You know,
Right.
we have to narrow it down because when we start asking about what it is that we want, that list can go on and on and on and on.
Yes.
But
Yes.
narrow it down to what I absolutely cannot live without.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
know, I cannot live without a garage. I must have a garage. I, as your realtor at that point, know if the home does not have a garage, I'm
Right.
not even going to waste your time in sending it to you or
Right.
scheduling an appointment for us to go view it. You
Right.
already told me that's a must have. You know, so you see how that can save both of us time. So that is very important. And I always tell my buyers, you know, before we have the consultation, I want you to think about what you want in your home. Because this is
Mhm.
something that you may need to go and discuss with those other individuals who are going to have the
Absolutely.
home. They may be living there as well. You know, and this is just a time to have that discussion. So when we have our buyers consult, we're ready.
Yes.
So yeah, I have them, I send them out with a little bit of homework before we have our one-on-one.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think it makes a difference. It does make a big difference. Um, I'm trying to think of any other
Well,
scary situation.
well, I find that when you're talking about diversity, what
Mhm,
about when you run into the challenge of someone expected you to be one person or a person, and then that person you are not,
mhm.
and then they don't want to work with you.
I haven't had that.
I have.
I
Now
haven't had
I have not experienced it in real estate,
that. Okay.
but in talking about diversity,
Mhm.
that is something that can happen, and you must be prepared to deal
Yeah.
with that.
How
And
did you deal with it?
so my situation was, when I worked in hospitality,
Mhm.
of course, this was long before days of Zoom and anything, so everything you
Right.
did was over the phone, right?
Right.
So I was a sales events coordinator, events manager, coordinator, and I had a client who we had talked on the phone multiple times, getting this event together. The day arrives, my client arrives on property. I go to meet my client. My client is a white, older male
Right.
gentleman. Of
Mhm.
course, I am an African American female.
Right.
The person I had been talking to on the phone all this time was always pleasant, was always polite, was always forthcoming with information. Great,
Mhm.
great opportunity, great working relationship together to get everything done. But on this particular day, the client was very like cold and distant and
Mm.
just, and I was like, wait a
Like,
minute,
what's going on?
what's
Mhm.
happening here? Bottom line, it came to be that the client did not want to work with me because I was African American.
Mm.
And I don't know if it was because I was also female. Um, I was very, of course, devastated. I just could not wrap my head around this. I mean,
Right.
that this was actually happening. Um, but what had to be done was that I had to send my coworker out, who was a white male, to be my face.
Right.
So I had to do everything through him
Mhm.
to make sure that my client was served.
Right.
I bring that up because I think many times in life, especially when it comes to diversity, when we are faced with challenges of how to deal with a situation such as that.
Mhm.
Again, emotions play a great role because of course I'm deeply offended and hurt and
Oh.
bothered and just cannot, like I said, wrap my head around why this is happening.
Mhm.
But I also had to realize that my role here was to be of service.
Right. Right.
So hence having my counterpart go out there and do what needed to be done. These people were going to be there for a whole week. So it wasn't like, I mean, but it was hard. So even in diversity at times, sometimes the solution is not immediate. Or I should say the
That's
solution is immediate, but the problem is not solved in that
immediately. Yeah.
immediately, if that
I
makes
get
sense.
that. I can understand that, and and I mean, just for clarity, people have their preferences, and I understand that. I get that.
Yes,
Um, I just would hope and pray that the level of expertise and the level of professionalism that one
right,
brings will not be overshadowed,
right,
by someone else's ignorance, you
right,
know? Um,
right,
and I use that term loosely. Again, people can have their preference, but
right.
once you see that it's not the preference that you would have preferred, does
Mhm.
not mean that you have to act nasty
Yes.
or disrespectful
Right,
or unprofessional,
right.
you know? Um,
Or inhumane.
or
Let's
inhumane.
let's just start with
Or inhumane.
being kind.
Exactly.
If you can't be anything else in the world, you can be a many of things in this world, but the one thing you can always be is kind.
Kind.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Kindness
so,
can take you so far.
yes, it can open
Kindness can take you
doors,
so
it
far.
can close doors, it can but it
Right.
can open a many of doors. And I think it's very important that we constantly remind ourselves that in the world in which we live, that there is diversity, there is difference everywhere we turn, everywhere,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And diversity is not just about ethnicity or just about um the color of my skin or the color of your skin or your
Mhm.
cultural background. It Diversity covers a
Yeah.
gamut.
It's like the person, place, or thing. I mean, it
Absolutely.
covers everything. It can be where you're from in
Right.
reference to residency. It
Yes.
can, it could be like you said, the color of your skin, it could be
Right.
your gender, it could be
It could be your
your
age.
religion. Like it
Yes.
can be anything. So therefore,
Anything.
we're not putting it in any particular box,
No.
because it's an umbrella of things that you
Right.
could fall under. And then, most of us can fall under multiple
Right.
um, categories, but it's just a level of respect that's due to everyone. And like you said,
Absolutely.
just be kind.
Yes.
Just be
And I
kind.
also think a level of understanding is something that we each have to commit to
Hmm.
having understanding,
Hmm.
learning. If you don't know, then ask.
Yeah.
And don't ask in a way that you're like, well, ask for
Hmm.
the point of
Hmm.
reference, for the point of education, for
Right.
what you don't know, because when you have knowledge, that opens up a window of opportunity for you to improve, for that person to improve. Because I find that most times when people knock heads, right, whatever it's over
Mhm.
as human beings, is only based on the lack of understanding
Right.
of one
And the
another and
miscommunication.
miscommunication.
Hmm. I
You know,
completely agree.
and so it's really important that DEI is that, those three letters carries a lot of weight.
It does.
It carries a lot
Yes.
of weight. And I want to always make sure that as we do this, I really do hope that we are educating
Mhm.
and also moving people to wanting to be educated.
Right.
Because as
Right.
you stated, we all have a preference.
Yes.
We all have a
Yes.
preference. And we
Hmm.
all we all know what we like and we all know what we don't like.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean we have to be
Hmm.
um not nice, not human, not
Right.
kind, not
Right.
respectful, or, closing our ears and our eyes to things that we see because we don't
Mhm.
like it.
Yeah.
Because
Because you're opening your mind, and having an open mind, like we discussed last week,
yes,
having an open mind could really open you up to new opportunities, new perspectives,
yes.
all of that. Because, for example, I always preferred female physicians for
Mhm.
myself.
Yes.
Ended up with a male physician, and he's no longer practicing medicine, but was one of the best doctors I've ever
Mhm.
had.
Absolutely.
Very attentive, very knowledgeable, wanted to make sure that before you walked out of his office, you had all of your questions answered,
Yes.
just that bedside manner.
Yes.
But had I stuck with just my preference,
Yes.
I would have missed that. You know, I would
Yes.
have I would have missed the opportunity to have had such a great physician, to have had the opportunity to be a patient of his prior to him retiring.
Mhm.
So yes, preferences are good, but
Right.
preferences can also put you in a box, you
Yes.
know, and,
Make you
and cause you to
close-minded.
miss some
Opportunities.
amazing opportunities, or
Yes.
even miss working with some amazing individuals
Yes.
because you're stuck on, your preference. But
Right.
again, it's your prerogative to
It
have your
is.
preference. We're
Yes.
not saying that, but we are saying just be kind in the event that reality does not allow you, or the
Yes.
universe does not put your preference,
Yes.
in
That,
that
you know what? I
particular.
like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Yes.
So,
Just be open to the
mhm,
opportunity of something different, something new, something,
yes,
because you know what? I think at this point in life where we are in the world, we're
Hmm.
all on a learning curve.
Yes. Okay.
I think that's where we're all on a learning curve. And the more that we are willing to be open to learning and getting understanding, it will make the whole entire world, what we do, what in our careers, in our homes, in our families, with people we meet, strangers will not be strangers because we
Right.
are willing to understand and listen and give credence.
Mhm.
Everybody has a voice, everybody has a place, and it's just important that we
I
remember
love that.
that.
I love that. And again, it's just one of those things where I absolutely love Berkshire for even allowing us to have this platform, because
Absolutely.
it has been for me, and I'm hoping for our listeners, of course, a breath of fresh air.
It is.
It's just a
It
breath of
is.
fresh air. And I'm just loving the opportunity to have these, open and candid conversations, because
Absolutely.
sometimes I think, you know what, it's going to be our table talk. It's like it's that kitchen talk conversation that you
Yes.
have with
Yes.
your close friends and family, but you dare not have it out in the open. But some conversations should be in the open because
Yes.
we learn
Right.
from one another. You
Yes.
know,
We
so
can.
my from my kitchen to yours.
Yes, I love
I
it.
thank I thank you for having the
I love
conversation.
it.
Yes. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have these
So am I.
conversations.
I
Yeah.
feel the same exact way, Jessica, that working and being with a company and alongside individuals who are not just talking a talk,
But they
but
doing
they're
it.
walking, we're all
Mhm.
walking the walk, you know.
Right.
And if we're not all walking the walk, then we are striving for us all to be walking the walk
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to serve our clients in every facet
Yes.
that they come in, right?
Most
Because
definitely.
we are all, that's what makes the world beautiful, that we are
Mm-hmm.
different, but we're all human. And I think
Exactly.
that's what we have to all remember. We're
Yeah.
all different, but we're all human. And you cannot be on a planet with humans and then go turn around and say, but I don't like humans. You're
Mhm.
a human. You're on a
Mhm.
planet with humans, and we have
And
to
if,
learn how
and
to
if we
be
were all
good
the
to one
same,
another.
and if we were all the same, it would be boring.
It would be very boring.
It
Just
would be
imagine
boring.
the things that we do every day, even after a while, even though we have habits, right? Habits sometimes need tweaking,
Right. Change
because
is
after a while
good.
you get tired of eating the same egg sandwich every
Yeah.
morning for breakfast.
Right. So I mean, I love the diversity of Berkshire.
I
I
do.
love what they're, again, what we're standing
Stand
for,
for.
and what we are currently, putting out into the atmosphere, and the
Yes.
way that everything is going. I am just so pleased with it, and
Yes.
just so happy to even be a part of it. So
I tell you.
again, I love coming and speaking with you,
I know, I do too.
and I
And
can't wait
I love when we get the opportunity to dive headfirst into
diving
diversity.
head first, diving head first. So
So,
again, we understand that this business had challenges. We do,
yes,
and
we
we
do.
take those challenges head on. We take it head on. We are ready, able, and willing to attack any challenge that we have, because we are equipped
Yes, we
to
are.
do so professionally, respectfully,
Yes,
and elegantly. So
absolutely.
bring those challenges on. I'm ready.
Yes, we're ready.
Yeah.
I love that. And with that being said, we thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that we really did give you some nuggets of knowledge. That is always our goal, that we inspire you in a way to go out and do something different, move differently, speak differently, think differently. But just remember, be kind. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye.